God.
I hope you brought your speed reading ears.
Yes, Andrew is full of energy and enthusiasm. And off the recording, we learned he's a heavy metal fan, which perfect, but I never would have guessed that in a million years.
Yeah.
Because there's
a really great conversation. And it's calling us all into the reality, not just the hope, that we can make this world way different than it is. And then there's resources, and it's a really inspiring conversation. And he provides a lot of resources. He's been very successful, and so he's a foundation. So one of the things you're going to learn on this conversation is how much is available to you to sort of reignite your own journey. And on a personal note, I want to say this to our audience, because over the last month, I've been really, really battling a significant health issue in my life. And I've been showing up here, and I'm committed to this. Like Greg said yesterday or this morning, ride or die. And it's not easy. And so I'm a little bit subdued maybe in this episode. I'm not quite as fiery as I might be. But I'm going to get better, and we're going to keep this thing going. And you're going to love Andrew Calderella. Sorry about that, Andrew. Yeah. And anything you want to add, Greg? Oh, go ahead.
Subscribe, drink Adrenochrome Cola, our sponsor, and support Blast and Compton Cowboys along with us. And...
Sis, hallo?
Blijven.
Stuur zeker wegen dem.
Yo, iets niet, joh.
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Marc.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Moped Outlaws, where every ride is an adventure and you never know what's around the next corner. Today, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our guest, Andrew Calderella. His book, The Way, is the perfect solution to all the problems facing our world and society right now. I'm so excited to talk with Andrew, but before we bring him out, I'm going to skip giving you all the background. We're going to just dive right into it. So, welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Greg. It's an honor to be here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah. So, you've got all the answers.
I don't know about that. I found a bunch along the way. I think I've been compelled to share, and people keep telling me I have to share all this. So, that's what I'm doing. Kind of outside my comfort zone, but they say that's a good place to be. And
we need solutions, not just gripers.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do, is share solutions. That it's not my solutions. These are humanity's solutions, is what I think I've kind of shared here.
I have similar ideas that come up for me. And when I present them, I always present them like, I want everybody to understand the depth and the structure and the fullness of the idea. But then actually what I'm wanting is for them to take on some kind of corner or piece of it. And then we parse it out. Like, I don't think I know everything, and I don't think I know that everything I think is the right way to go is going to turn out to be the right way. But what I want is everyone to get hot and involved on this idea of what can we co-create together to shift the way this thing is going.
Sure, absolutely. I think the whole idea of unity, us getting on the same page and working together to find the true solutions, is the whole idea. If you look at the book, The Way, it's about kind of putting together all the answers that humanity has found into a way that we could all kind of digest it and understand it, so we do get on the same page. We have this foundation that we kind of share together. It doesn't mean that we're all doing exactly the same thing the same way. It's that we, like drinking water, right? We all need to know, we need to drink so much water in a day, but how we do it, when we do it, it does matter, right? You're not going to drink all the water you need right before you go to bed. It would not be the best way to do it. So if you have the best practices, and we all kind of share those best practices, and we keep refining them and finding others, that's how we become better people. That's how we create a better society and a better world. And I think that's really what we're here for. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. And did the Mandalorian read your book?
That's so funny you said that. I have had somebody else tell me that before. It's like, the way, you're following the way. That's also, it came from my childhood, actually. I studied Eastern philosophy, and it's like when you're learning it, they all have the names like the Tao Te Ching and things like that. And it's one of the books was The Way, and it kind of stuck with me. I remember carving that into my desk when I was a kid, and the whole idea of trying to figure out how you can be your best, right? How many times have you been later in life and you're like, God, I wish I knew that when I was a kid, right? You're like, hey, I'm 40 years old and I finally figured out how to eat properly or sleep properly or get up in the morning properly. These fundamentals to life are what we need to optimize, and there are best practices around everything. And if we kind of bring all those to light, we share them, we find others along the way. Just a quick analogy, it's like people that sail or do ships, there's so many different knots that they have to know, right? You can't just go on a ship and be like, oh, I'm just going to tie this knot. No, the whole thing's going to collapse. But if you talk to, people that are on ships, there's different knots though that they might use for that same purpose, or a left-hander might use this knot instead of this one because it's faster. So that idea though is that we're optimizing, right? We're finding the best practices, the best knot, and we're kind of sharing them with each other and then figuring out what is best for us and how to use it. Anyway, that's kind of the whole idea of the way
totally.
And the foundation.
Totally. And so the subheading of the book is that there's 7 steps to living a meaningful life. What are some of those steps?
Sure. It's when I started this and I was explaining it to people, like you said, sometimes you get big picture, you get too in depth. And what everybody kept saying to me was, how do you start this out? If you're going to get humanity on the same page, you're going to have to start really basic. You can't jump 5 steps, right? You can't, because it's just going to lose people. So the first 3 steps of the way are really fundamental. The idea is to know, want and choose. And what I'm talking about is the good. Like we all know innately what good is, right? When you think about it, it's better to be loved than hated. We want clean water, not poisoned water. It's really basic to the human mindset. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, hopefully everybody can get that one point. Like we know what the good is in the world, right? And if you think about it, it's really different between vice and virtue when you're talking about humanity, right? You want to be healthy. You don't want to be sickly. You want to be loved. You don't want to be hated. You want to have great relationships, not bad relationships. So that idea of knowing what the good is the first step. And then knowing that inside of you, there's this part of you that wants it. It's an innate want that we all share, that we certainly do all want the good. But then we have to make a choice. And that's the third step, is really to understand that if fundamentally in your soul, you need to make this deep choice that this is where you're going to hang your hat, right? You don't know all the answers. You don't know how to get there, but you really do want to be a good person. You want to be your best self. You want to help create a better world. And those are the first fundamental steps that I'm hoping that the most of humanity can walk down together. If we could just, most of us walk down those 3 steps, then we can get into the later game. Does those 3 steps make sense to you guys?
Yeah. Now I'm wondering, for myself, there's like, and Marc and I in conversation have referred to it as the shadow self. And it's that element inside that's fighting the good.
Yes.
And do you have personal experience with coming to consciousness with that?
Oh, absolutely. Carl Jung, great philosopher, he's big into the shadow self. I think there's a whole book I read about that. The idea, when you talk about your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, who we are as a being, we're not fully conscious in this world. That's where the idea of the subconscious comes from. And, like you said, you're fighting yourself. You have to realize that in some context, especially spirituality, when you get into that, you're also, there's higher forces in the world. There's these higher energies that affect us and yourself. So when you're talking about positive and negative, I remember talking to somebody that's very spiritual. I was saying, well, if you can hear the voice of God, then you can hear the voice of the devil, right? So you can hear, you hear both. It's not just the angel sitting on your shoulder. Mm-hmm. It's also the devil sitting on the other shoulder. Why is it like that? Right. It's because, again, that choice, right? The choice inside of you is what makes the difference. So if you're sitting there listening to this negative self, are you saying, yes, you're right, I'm horrible, the world is ending, or are you saying, no, I don't want that to happen. I want to fix this. I'm not going to just give in. I'm going to get up. I'm going to make it work. So this idea of what we're here for, this is a training ground. This is a testing ground. This certainly isn't heaven, right? So when we're walking through your life, you got to look at yourself and all these challenges that you're dealing with as just that, a challenge. How are you going to step up, right? You ever been an athlete? going to a race. You're not walking into the event going, yeah, I'm going to lose. This sucks.
Right,
you know.
right.
No, you're like, I'm positive. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do it. You know, you're bucking each other up. You're going to make this work. So that's the idea you got to have in your own brain. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I want to know if you're open to me pushing back on the "this isn't heaven" concept.
Ah,
Well, please push back on anything you like, man. I'm open.
All right. So I'm going to take this from the Christian sort of approach.
I'm going to push back on you, Mark, but go ahead.
Great. We're all going to push around and play and have fun. The basic idea that I take from Christian doctrine is that this is actually heaven, and that unless we are good caretakers, that ultimately the biosphere becomes hell-like. And they didn't necessarily have the desire or the insight to pull in the concepts of Hinduism and reincarnation into the Christ story, because it might have been confusing for them or they didn't have access to them. But when you take this idea of multiple bodies, one soul over the course of eternal experience and infinite life through that lens, having a place to incarnate to that is not a fireball of toxicity is a pretty important idea. And so in the metaphor of the Garden of Eden and this idea of right action in the Buddhist tradition, and, you know, taking good care of ourselves and our spaces that are in part of indigenous cultures, I see this as a thing that was designed to help people who wouldn't be able to have the kind of intellectual prowess that we all three have and others to notice this piece. And so they try to encode it in a set of behaviors rather than try to give people the full reasoning behind it. So that's my point of view. What do you think of that, Andrew, and then Greg?
Sure. Well, if that's true, I believe that there's also hell on this earth too, then, because if you know, especially in the third world and other places, they don't have an opportunity to even live a heavenly life in any sense, because if you're struck by poverty and, you know, you're starving, you don't have access to education and all the rest, your life becomes desperate. You know, desperate people living that day-to-day life where you're just trying to, I don't have enough water, I'm starving, my kids are starving. It's a horrible situation. But the idea, you know, this idea of existence, right? If you think about, when you're thinking about God and how this all works, you mentioned all the different religions. There's so many things I can say. First, I want to say that I do believe that there are different levels of being. And if you're taking a creation that's made in the image of God and that kind of idea, but you're bringing them up without knowledge, you have to start somewhere. And if you're going to start somewhere, it's in a place where, you know, they are limited, right? There's not just, we can do anything with our minds and make everything move. We have certain human conditions that we live under that will determine if we make it individually as well as a species. So I think that the idea of heaven is to go to an existence to where this desperate, you know, good, evil challenge isn't so in front of our face, where we can really just be our best, meaning you're not worried about food, you're not worried about all these other basics to life, and you're able to become a better person, you know, constantly evolving. And then this plane of existence that we're on right now is that step before that, to where we have to prove ourselves worthy and, you know, really fundamentally concentrate on who we are and what we are as a being. But I would just want to say to you on the reincarnation idea, if you look at this from Christianity's point of view, it's God's perspective is what they're trying to give you. So it's like you have one life, you live it forever. And from God's perspective, it doesn't matter how many bodies you inhabit, right? There's one life, I created you here and you're living forever. The Buddhist perspective of reincarnation is kind of from the human idea, right? You're looking at my body's dying, I'm taking another one, but it's still your one spirit that's going through all those different existences. So I don't think that there is really any conflict between those two ideas. The whole idea of you as a being just going to heaven is changing this body and going somewhere else. So I think it all works together. Anyway, that was a little scattered, but hopefully it made sense.
No, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, that wasn't scattered at all. That was on point.
If it was, you weaved together a nice little synthesis there. Yeah. And Greg, did you have something you wanted to challenge me on or push back with me on? Or
well, the only thing,
passed.
So real quickly, you know, the Lord's Prayer from Christianity is your will on earth as it is in heaven. And to me, what that says is we're hoping that we will live the heavenly existence here on earth, but we're asking for help, that we're not there yet.
Well, yeah, and it's up to us to do it.
The
It's our choice. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're here to interrupt, Andrew. This is all about you.
This is your
Let me just
show.
say this. Since it's about that, I just want to say that I think the whole reason we're here, and I've had a lot of these spiritual experiences, is we have to give this up to God. I get that, but it's also our choice, right? We, as a human race, have to prove ourselves. We've got to work together. We can't just point our fingers and dismiss each other. This red-blue divide that we have going on in the United States is all artificial. If you break it down, talk to anybody in the world, we all want the basic same things. You want a great life. You want a great family, great relationships, to be healthy, have access to all these opportunities, challenge yourself, become better. You know what I mean? You could go anywhere. We all want the same thing. So why is it this hell show? It's because usually men, right? If you look at all of human history, it's usually men, kings, queens, certainly women sometimes, but captains of industry. The more wealth, power, and fame you have, the more challenged you are to become corrupted. And what does that mean exactly? Corruption, and it talks about corruption. A lot of it, when you become super wealthy, powerful, and famous, it has to do with pride. What is pride? Pride has to do with the idea of the sickness of superiority, meaning, you see your kid out there, he runs really fast. You're like, wow, I feel proud of my kid. That's fine. That's normal, good, healthy. You build something in your house. It makes you feel good. That's fine. It's when you think, no, my kid is better than everybody else. Nobody else should ever talk to my kid. If they are getting better to them, we should break their legs. This sickness becomes like the reality. Like, no, that's good because my kid is superior to everybody else. So he should be able to spit on everybody and nobody, you know what I mean? This idea. So this sickness of superiority and greed, right? The idea of greed is just, there's no limit on, the amount of money I can have. It's tied to gluttony in a way. There's how much food you can have, how much, if you stuff your house with more and more and more gold by taking it away from people that are actually doing the work or destroying the world that we all live in and all the rest. You know what I'm saying? So the idea of sickness of superiority and greed is really the biggest problem with men becoming wealthy, famous. Anyway.
And it has been, what you're talking about, Andrew, has been scientifically measured in labs. There was one study where psychologists created a game, and for some of the people playing, it was a fixed game that they would win. Of course, the people playing, no one knew that was the case. But what they measured over a period of time is the people who won started believing that they were winning because of their own virtues, and that in essence, they were born to win. So you're speaking to a psychological element that I think, again, is that resonance of, like Carl Jung said, that's our shadow self. That is part of our personal challenge to coming into an enlightened existence.
Right. Well, that begs the question then, how do we fix this?
Right.
And that's what the way is about, right? So step 4 literally covers this idea of what is our core belief system. What is a shared core belief system that we as humanity can have as a fundamental level that will help us to avoid the corruption of the vice versus virtue failings and sin and all of that? And the first, when you study the human mind, like you said, it's really important that we kind of get fundamental, right? You always got to get down to the core basic level so you can build up from that. You build this foundation. So the first idea is, why are we here? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? It's the idea of becoming your true self, living this true life. And if you're a believer, going to heaven, going to this better place because you've evolved. That shared idea is really at the fundamental aspect of all religion, self-help, everything else, right? Become your best self, live your best life, hopefully go to a better place, nirvana, whatever it is. And then the second idea is like, what is our purpose here with the world, right? It's to help create a true society. Like you're saying, it's really hard for some people to become their best if you're in that survival level, because you're desperate all the time. I don't know if you've ever been really poor, or if you're talking to people. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. That if you're desperate, you're on that survival level, and sometimes you can rationalize anything to survive: stealing, cheating, lying, whatever it is, some fighting, whatever.
Or you get despondent and without hope, and you just spiral into a darkness of hopelessness.
Yes, I've been there too. It's like the idea of wanting to kill yourself, feeling unworthy, and all of that. I grew up, being bullied, and I had a patch over my eye. It was just teachers telling me I was too stupid to be in school when I was in elementary school, telling me I should just quit. Elementary school, 4th grade, get out of school. You're too stupid to learn anything. In front of the whole class, mocking you. That led me down a really dark path. being thrown in trash cans, all of that stuff. So the idea that everybody can, live a wonderful life is only true if the society has the structures to help us do that, right? And I think that the biggest problem I've seen throughout all of human history isn't that we don't have the knowledge, the money, the people, or anything else. It's that the people at the top become corrupted. They don't think they are, and they're going to get pissed off at me for even saying that, because they rationalize everything to being, no, this is absolutely right. And the problem with that thinking is you're not usually, again, the next 3 steps have to do with the golden rule is one of them. Okay. So the idea of treating others as you want to be treated. And it doesn't mean like, if I like chocolate, I'm going to give you chocolate, right? It means what do you like, Greg? What do you like, Mark? You know what I mean? How can we make your life better and, make this work for you? So the idea of the golden rule has shown up in pretty much every religion throughout time. It's in all the fundamental answers to society. And that idea isn't just for us treating each other that way, but it's also in our systems of society. Do you want to have a water system that's, throwing through pipes of lead and, it's poison when it gets to you and everybody's being poisoned? Nobody wants that. Who wants that? You know what I mean? You go around the world, everybody wants poisoned water. Nobody's going to say that. So the idea is, what do we want to create as a society? The systems, just like your body systems, can be optimized, right? You drink enough water, you eat healthy, you exercise, you do all these things, you're optimizing your body. We can do that with every single system we have. I always talk about water because everybody kind of gets that. It's really simple. But, when you have a system like that, you don't just, if it's not working, cut it off, right? Like your heart says, oh, my heart is a little damp. Oh, let's just remove your heart. No, you're going to work out. You're going to take something. You're going to help fix it. Same thing with the water system. You don't just turn it off. Everybody's going to die. So the idea of working to optimize your life, our society, is kind of, again, fundamental to the human idea. So becoming your best self is about treating others as you want to be treated. It's about respecting our planet, right? We can't thrive here if we're having a dying world and, the hellish landscapes that we can create. So protecting our environment, it shouldn't just be us yelling at everybody to do it. Everybody should be doing it, right? The companies that are destroying the world, we have to be like, why are you cutting down the Congo or the ancient rainforest that is the lungs of the world? It makes no sense. Let's get some common sense here and not fall to greed and pride and all the rest. So, treating others as you want to be treated, respecting our world, are 2 of the most fundamental principles that I think that we could share as a human race. Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, totally. We're all on the same page there for sure. One of the other things I noticed that I was thinking while I was listening to you was we participate in the superiority fallacy sometimes by making idols of people who are successful and diminishing ourselves.
Yeah.
And that
everybody's worthy is wealthy, right? Like the only best people in the world are the wealthiest.
Well, and people they say, well, I could never do that, right? But I don't actually believe that about humanity. I actually think that each of us has something unique and brilliant to give. But the context and the conditioning of competition in our economic spheres often has us believe in the false dichotomy of you're either a winner or a loser. And people hypnotize themselves when they see everything outside themselves going a certain way and them not having access to it. They start to believe in their victimhood, or they believe in their loser condition, right? Which isn't to say there aren't real victims and real people who really have lost out in terms of the way things unfold. But so much of my philosophy is if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
That's
right. And so there's this aspect of us idolizing people at the cost of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That creates the kind of addiction to the cult of personality that those celebrities and really like superior people create. It's their sickness, but then it's our sickness too, because we tend to believe that we're less than on some level.
Yeah, we feed into it. That's partly the way that society is made and how it's so focused around entertainment, for one, right? So the people that entertain us in this society right now are the most famous. Usually everybody knows the singers and the actors and things like that, but you don't know the greatest school teachers and the scientists and the whatever, you know what I mean? Like we don't even know who they are, what's happening. And I think that's partly because it's easy, right? Wealth, power, and fame, again, are the 3 biggest corruptors. And it's pervasive in all of our society. So it's our focus. It's, and unduly should we be focusing on following somebody else's life instead of making your own life. It's like, and again, I'm not dissing anybody, so don't take this. If you're watching football and you're into it, I get it, right? But if you're neglecting your family because you're watching football all day, every day, during the week that it's on, and doing your fantasy football and all of that, but you're not hanging out with your wife or your kids, and fixing up the house or whatever it is, that addiction, right, is the same thing. People watching influencers on Instagram, following everything they say and everything they do. You got to get into your life. So what your point is exactly true. I think this is the idea of teaching us how we can be our best self, is not just about these ideas like I was talking about, virtue and all of that, the idea of having a core belief system. It goes on to step 5, which is really, how do you integrate all this into your life? So we talk about it as, what I say is like your daily way. So what is your daily way? Literally, like, what do you do and think and be during all the waking hours of your life? And how do you structure that in a way that will help you become the best person that you can? So the first one has to do with just the basics, right? Like taking care of how you wake up in the morning. What do you actually think and do from the moment you're conscious to the moment you go to sleep? So we map all that out. And then it's also all the things that you don't have in your life. Like, I really, like we do a triage, right? Let's say I met you and we go through your life, all the different pieces, the finances, the relationships and everything else, your health. And you say to me, well, my health isn't really great. I really need to deal with that right now. Otherwise, all the rest of it doesn't matter. We're going to get down and dirty and go into every nitty gritty of what that is and how we can help you to be the healthier person, while we also try to integrate all these other things. So the daily way would be then focus for the person that has these biggest problems that they're dealing with, is integrating, make sure that you have those listed down and you can see them in your mind and you can follow that. So you can literally like, oh, okay, you're right. Every few hours, I got to drink some water. I can't just go all day and not drink any water. You know what I mean? I know people that literally do that. It's not healthy. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, does that make sense? Like, you got to integrate all these different virtues into your life. And the idea of a virtue is really like being healthy. There's a million little things you need to do. So it's finding out the best practices on all those little pieces of your life: exercise, food, health, and integrating that into your life. And then those become habits, and you keep integrating more and become better and better and better.
And so we need to remember that virtue is not for how others perceive us. It's for how we are. We get to be in the virtue of our own awareness and our own capacity for ourselves.
Exactly. It's like, there's so many. I have a list. You can find this stuff on my website, but there's like hundreds of different virtues. People know some of the basics ones about being positive and happy and healthy and disciplined and dedicated. And you just keep going down the list. There's so many.
Sarcastic.
Funny is a virtue, man. Being having the lighter side of life. That's definitely a virtue. So, curious, whatever. There's so many. And that's what when I talk to kids, especially, like, you ask them, like, they're really interested. Like, how, if you talk to a kid about, do you want to be yourself and all of this? They're like, yeah, but how do I do it? What am I supposed to be doing every day? And I remember talking to my nephew about this and others and kids, and they're fully into it. Like, if you get a kid into the idea of virtue and like, okay, so being healthy is a virtue. Okay, I want to be healthy. How do I be healthy? Okay, well, you got to drink water. You got to do this. You got to exercise. They get fully into it. Like, they sometimes you got to calm them down a little bit. And then they, you go through all the different ones. Being intelligent. Well, how do I be intelligent? Well, you got to study. You got to go to school. You got to pay attention. You got to focus. What is discipline? All of it. Like I said, you just go through the list. And if we integrate these key virtues, especially as we're kids, they become habits, and then we don't have to relearn things later in life. So anyway, I know I just went off.
No, I love this. And your energy is so potent. I love how fast you speak and how fired up you are. There's a fire of human hope I see in you that I'm really enthralled with. I'm really happy to see. And I want to move us along. And how did the way inform the creation of the seventh foundation? And what is the seventh foundation up to?
Sure. So the seventh foundation is a startup idea, and it's the organization that would help to promote not only the ideas in the way, but refine them. You see, the whole idea of the way is that we have this certain way that all of us can become the best that we can be. And like I mentioned, the knot example, when you're going on a ship, we're on the ship together. We're all humans. We all live under the human conditions. There are certain things we need to do and refine and become better. that's true with all of us. So the idea of the foundation is to keep researching and refining, because I wrote this down. I have dyslexia. For me to write a book, it took me 30 years to do this, right? It was not an easy thing. I mean, it was my madness of writing when I first comes out isn't crazy. Like you couldn't even read it because everything's spelled so wrong and it's in the wrong order and everything else. So it's like deciphering my madness when I try to write something down. But the idea is the foundation is to keep refining these things and making it easier and easier for people to integrate it. Courses and books and stories and movies and, characters that embrace these ideas in our culture, and sharing them in a way that isn't preachy, but just normal, right? Like you see a kid, he wakes up in the morning and he's like, does this little meditation, gets out of bed, stretches, drinks water, eats his apple, does stretching, he has this little moment of meditation. You see these kids doing this in some show. The kids that are watching that show are going to go, oh, maybe this is how I should be. You know what I mean? So integrating the ideas of how you be your best self into our culture is part of what the ideas and promotion, like you said, marketing and staff, and you need a lot of people to do all that. And when I first started this, I honestly thought, oh, I'll publish a book and I'll do all this, and you don't make any money from books. You have a foundation, you become a beggar, right? You got to go out there and ask people for money. Hey, can you please? So it was a little tough. So I kind of semi-retired in 2015 because my businesses were doing really well, and I didn't need to work like every day in the grind. And then I had this big breakthrough in 2015. The reason I say that is because with the way I found the 7 steps mixed into my notes, and I was able to put it all together. And so it took me 5 years to get the book out. And then, of course, COVID hits. Right? So it was like, it comes out right at the beginning of COVID, and the world's ending, and my businesses were all destroyed. And so anyway, so I had to come back out in 2022, and, back with my partners, and Consulting Ace is my company. We help businesses, make, save, and recover money in all these different areas, time and money, I should say. And I found that there's a lot of business owners and people out there that love the ideas I'm sharing. So I'm trying to combine both ideas together, where we could have, really great businesses that help people, as well as create a better world as part of the whole piece. Like, how people always think like business is separate from the world, like, oh, it's just business. You know what I mean? It's not. It's an integral part of our society. If you bomb out a society, right, and the people come out of the rubble, what do? Here's a water stand over here. Here's a food stand. Here's a guy that's got clothes. I mean, it's a fundamental starting point of what business is about. And the idea fundamentally, right, vice versus virtue again in business, is people work, we make money, we participate in society. It's kind of a flow back and forth between the money and the systems, they support each other. The problem is that if you don't pay people enough money, they can't participate in the society. And if it's too low, they become desperate and worried and anxious and all the rest of it. And you're not creating a better world that way. The problem is that people think that certain work is worth lesser. I don't know. If you go up to work for me and you're working 8 hours a day, I don't care if you're bagging groceries or if you're, doing some high level accounting or whatever, you should be able to live your life. You shouldn't go home and not be able to buy food for your family if you're giving me 8 hours, during the day. And we also can't then just turn everybody into robots and AI and get rid of all the workers, because then what are people going to do, right? Hey, we made all our products with robots and AI, and nobody has jobs, so nobody can buy all the products you made because nobody has any money. So, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is business is an integral part of society. You can't separate it. It needs to work with people. Used to be that businesses and the wealthy would, fund a school, fund a park, fund a road, fund a bridge, all of that. You don't see that anymore. It's just, oh no, we gave so much to Goodwill or something. You know what I mean? And there's no real good works being done in this society anymore. And I know I'm railing on business a little bit.
But wait, that's
go
not true. There are actually enterprises that are creating human impacts, right? There's an aspect of capitalism that is increasing the function of society in certain ways. Well, but overall, there's a negative aspect to it too. Go ahead, Greg.
What's this? Is it C Corp that was created like within a decade? B Corp, is that it?
You're talking about like the one that's environmentally sound,
right? And the employees are health. So there is, and part of what I'm hearing you, Andrew, I've had conversations with Marc that are very similar, and what came to mind is it's conscious capitalism, and that you're both very, very passionate about bringing this spiritual consciousness that all three of us are very passionate about into moment to moment life, which includes commerce.
Of course. I mean, just look at it again, treating people as you want to be treated. So you're working for a business. I don't care what job you're in. Don't you want to take care of yourself in your life and have some opportunity in a facility and all of that? Of course you do. I mean, if you're the owner, you have to look at the people as part of things that are under your care. You know, they aren't an expense. They're part of the, they're not part of the, what do I say? So if you're grinding people for the profit, like you're paying them less and less to make more money, you're actually doing your business a disservice, because part of what you're really trying to do is not only take care of your people, create the better product, better service, and all of that. It's all one thing, you know, this whole entity. And that's where I think in the future, and again, this is a huge other topic, but businesses, if we do have AI and robots doing a lot of work, why not, you know, if you're making so much money, pay people to become their best self. I mean, like, you have this great game where, you know, you could go through your life, like I was saying, and do all these great things in your life, taking care of yourself. But then what is your passion? What is your great ability is? And we can kind of go into there and figure out what that is. And then we can team up and all the rest and have these competitions, like, and you can participate in society, whatever it is that you're the best at. We can nurture that and help you become that and find that niche in society. And then as far as the game aspect, we could gamify everything. Right, becoming your best self. Hey, if you wake up in the morning, you exercise, you do this, you get points for all the good stuff you do all day. And then if you're educating yourself, I really want to be a teacher. I want to be whatever, an engineer. You know, you get points for all the research you do, and then you get paid based on how good you do, based on the performance you are playing in this great game of becoming your best self.
So what I'm hearing you say is really that there is innovation available to us in the way that we've constructed this, and it can be changed and move forward. And so I'm going to bring us back around to the question I asked a couple of minutes ago. I'm really interested in the structural location, inputs and outputs, and staff structure of the Seventh Foundation and how that fits into this vision that you have.
Sure. Right now it's a startup, so it's just really me and a couple other volunteers. So it's just, my whole thing is I'm a bootstrapper. So when I started my own business, just me, I remember I sold things that I was going to start my business as before I even had my business license or a bank account. So the idea of the Seventh Foundation is based on what the way is. So the way and this foundation are about helping people become their best self and creating a better world.
So do you have a mission statement for the foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that I could read it to you right now, but the idea is, yeah. It's on the website, 7WayMe. You can go there. The whole mission, really, again, it's to be the fundamental backer of these ideas, but then to help us all participate in society in a way that we can integrate these ideas. You know, having an idea and forgetting about it, and when you go about your life, is meaningless. But like I said, if it's part of our society, meaning we kind of get these ideas, but then it shows up in our movies and our songs and our comedy. You know what I mean? If you look at the website, I have all different types of projects out there where we can integrate these ideas into those. And that's what I mean. The only way that we can fix this society is together. This idea of the strong man, the top down, the one guy is a myth. It's never going to happen. You know, if you read Eastern philosophy, they talk about the idea of the philosopher kings. And that is true, that you might have a good king. But if you study history, once you get that good king, the next one, because you set it up as a kingship, or the one after that, is horrible, right? So you can't have a society in which you're dependent upon a bloodline or a certain group of people to lead you because of corruption. Nobody is beyond being corrupted. And the more famous and powerful and everything else you are without a core belief system that can help guide you and people around you that can help keep you in check, the more likelihood you are going to be corrupted and think you're not, right?
I heard there were some guys that got together in Philadelphia around 250 years ago that really championed this idea of eliminating these kinds of fiefdoms and restoring power to the individual.
Exactly. And what's funny is if you look at that back then, it was still just white men, right? And look how far we've come. So now it's humanity together. That's why,
unfortunately, I don't know that we've come that far.
Well, from slavery to kings and queens, America is the first one, man. I mean, but you go all the way back to Greece, and even then they still had the emperor, right? So this was the first true kind of republic democracy in the world, and it evolved when women couldn't vote, slavery was, we got rid of all that. So
Right. Well,
we
yeah.
got a long way to go.
Yes. And like you mentioned earlier in conversation, we currently have a very prophetic red-blue adversary going on. And I'm just going to throw this out there because I want to keep saying it out loud. I think it's ridiculous that we go to Google Maps and Apple Maps and it's now the Gulf of America. I think there's a lot more to that existence and that happening on such a large business level. But that is a different, well, it's not really a different topic than we're talking with you, Andrew, because you really are talking about conscious living and living a heavenly life here on planet Earth.
Yeah, striving for it, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
This red-blue divide, let's just talk about that for a second, because it's really important. It's not only important for America, but it's important for the world. I lived overseas. I know people from around the world, and a lot of them are shocked at what's happening. A lot of people see America as a shining house on the hill, the hope for the world and all of that, and the confidence in that has been shaken because of what is happening in our country. And let me just talk about this for a second because it's really important. The reason we have this divide is not because we're divided, it's because we're being divided. We're being manipulated. And it's two main groups that are doing this. We have red-blue news, right? You literally can watch one news channel and hear how great somebody is and how horrible this other people are, and watch another news station, they say a complete opposite, right? So we don't have fair news, we have shaded news, red-blue news. And the other thing is we have two parties that plays into this idea of, us versus them. We only have two, right? And especially men, this is very tribal, right? It's us versus them. Look at our sports. You will have people, and you know them, I know them, right, that are so loyal to their team, it doesn't matter. Like my Lions have lost every game forever, and I'm still a fan. I was born there. I'll be a fan forever. This idea of this tribal mindset has been kind of brought home because we have this red-blue news and then these political parties that play on that, right? The other side is horrible. They're evil. They're Hitler. They're whatever. It's stupid. They're, what I mean? They're in a cult.
They both have the perfect descriptions of why the other person is not good enough and to be feared.
Well, exactly. And is it all true? You know what I mean?
No, none of it's true.
It's all exaggerated, and like we take out little snippets here and little snippets there.
Well, and we need to go up a level in terms of our analysis, because this isn't an accident. This isn't something that just sort of accidentally evolved. This is by design, and it goes back way further than the founding of the United States. It's been a process where you pit people against themselves in order to protect you from being subject to what they would, if they figured out what you were up to, then you'd be in trouble, right? There's this idea of there are real people who are continuing to invest in supporting this dichotomy because it's effective for them to escape the light of revealing what shenanigans they're up to.
Yeah, I think partly, like if you study the lives, you actually talk to the wealthy and famous, they usually don't see it that way. But it's like when I was bullied as a kid, because I was bullied all the way through elementary school, and then, in sixth grade, there's nobody above you. So usually those bullies are left, and I was left with the bullies of my age, but I'm a pretty big guy. So I had like 2 fights and it was over, but then those bullies wanted to be my friend. And I learned about their lives, and they had really horrible lives, father abuse and all of this stuff. So you're like, oh, I just thought they were horrible people, but it's not. They had this thing. And when you go into the lives of really wealthy people, it's this rationalization, especially if it's generational wealth, where nobody really ever had to work really hard to live and all the rest of it. It's a complacency. If you get up at 10 o'clock and, you're going to meet with your friends at lunch, and then you have a party to go to later, maybe, that's your life. How motivated are you to go, I got to fix this problem in the world. I got to help. They don't even care. They don't even know. They're living in beautiful places. They fly to beautiful places. Everything's beautiful. I don't know what your problem is, man. Why don't you live like I do? Eat, like Marie Antoinette. Yeah, everybody, why don't you eat cake?
Let her eat cake.
Yeah. So that idea, that corruption is the problem. And I think the Marie Antoinette quote kind of sums that up, right? They don't see it like that. Right. And that's part of the problem. So we have an elite class that rules the world that doesn't really get it, right? The idea of living in desperation and all this rest that they're creating for us, where it doesn't have to be this way. And just to let you know, the idea of what you're talking about, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, The Prince by Machiavelli, those two books, and there's another one I can't remember the name of right now, but kind of summarize this idea of this elite manipulative thinking, right? Especially The Prince, Machiavelli. There's this idea that keeping people under your thumb and manipulating them, using them as pawns, is how it should be. You know, I mean, that's my right as kings to do that to you because you're lesser than I am. You're not really human a lot of times. So therefore we can do it. And again, this is a total corruption of humanity. I mean, just look at just a side note here. The idea of corruption. Look at the Catholic Church or the Church of Christ when it was young. Before Rome kind of became Christian, they were really about good works and community and all of that. When Rome took over, it became about saying sorry on Sunday, giving some money, and then sinning all week, right? Because they had the vomitoriums and all the sex palaces and everything else. So they had to reconcile that. So it was like, do anything you want during the week. Just say sorry on Sunday, give us some cash, and cool. And we built palaces. Used to be like kings and queen palaces. Now they're churches' palaces. Anyway, so they have a different type of ruling class. But just look at the Christians. How, as a Christian leader, could you possibly justify the Crusades? Let's go down to Christ's homeland and kill everybody there and steal all their stuff and take their land. And it literally has the 10 Commandments where it says, do not kill and do not steal. But you're the leader, right, of the Christian group, and you're convincing millions of people to go do this. And into my head, when I read about everything that they did and down there, it just blows my mind that there weren't more people going, hey, wait a second, we're the group of love, peace. Should we be sending envoys and like, hey, we're all children of the book, we all believe in Abraham, can't we just, let's see how we can work together. But no, it was go down and kill them. So what I'm saying to you is this corruption of humanity nobody's immune. I don't care what faith you're in, what you have to understand that the sickness of superiority makes the horror you're doing seem okay, seem good, seem righteous, right? Hating and murdering and stealing is righteous, is good. I'm honoring God. Yeah. That is the ultimate corruption, right? You see that in Islam, you see that in Christianity. You know what I mean? Anyway, we can go on and on about that. But
so there's an animalistic part of the brain which tends to feed into this, and it's reactive and it's related to fear and the way that the structure of the brain works. And then the higher caliber parts of us that have evolved to understand the synergies and the vision of a unified field and the way that we are all interdependent are often hijacked by the inputs of creating that fear. And there are people that have learned to leverage that for their gain, right? And then there's the reminder that comes along every few centuries where everyone wakes up and goes, hey, we're actually more powerful than this. We don't have to put up with this, and we can change things and do it differently. And I guess my question for you is, where do you find hope for humanity?
Well, you can't fix anything unless you know the problem. So the hope in humanity at this stage in our existence is that we are all connected. We can share information around the world instantly. And there's ways for us to connect and share wealth and knowledge and everything else that we've never had before. So the hope is found in that we all see this huge problem. If we actually do have a solution, and if you look at the way and the one is about the one tribe, the one party, the one movement, and these organizations that help us join together to find these and implement the solutions. I think there's more hope in the society right now than there ever has been because of that, because the whole world is kind of awake to this madness. We can, like literally tomorrow, like let's say this went viral. I could go on Facebook and start a link to donate money, which I do have. In a Facebook group. We'd have millions of people in a Facebook group. And imagine 1 billion people in a group, and they donated like $1 a month. And we were like, oh, let's focus on this problem. We're going to get the greatest minds in the world. We're going to create this thing, we're going to focus, blah, blah, blah. Here's what you're donating to. I mean, we literally in a year could change the entire world. I mean, there's so much wealth. It's just not being used properly. There's so much opportunity. There's so many solutions. I have this idea of a solution website to where it's, whatever it is, medical, energy, whatever, pollution cleanup. We kind of join together and we share the knowledge there. We group it together, and then we have the AI and the minds, and everybody looking at it and going, hey, these are the best solutions now. Let's refine this. Let's implement it here. This is a great problem in the world at this location. Let's do a test case. You know what I mean? Like, we could literally go down the list and solve all the problems in the world very quickly with the tools and the people we have and the ability to connect and the money that's out there. So that's my hope, is that we can somehow break through this, this madness that's going on, and group together as a rational, reasonable humanity, and unify and find these solutions together and implement them. I mean, it's not even that hard. Like I said, I think with the tools today, imagine the 1800s trying to do that. Hey, man, go around the world, to every country and have somebody try to talk to everybody, try to print out no, I mean, boom, I can do it in a minute. So there's hope.
I ask Andrew if you're willing to share 3 habits you personally have for when you first wake up in the morning to help you strengthen the course you're on towards consciousness.
Absolutely. And I keep refining this all the time. But the very first thing you do is when you're first starting to gain consciousness, you'll get to this point where you realize that you're kind of starting to wake. You don't have to do this every day, but you can play with that a little bit. You can fade back and forth. And if you do, you'll notice that there's this energy overlay. So it's either positive or negative when you first wake up sometimes. And I remember, I was in a car accident. I couldn't walk, and my life was pretty much ruined. And I was, I wake up in agony. And when I wake up, it was like, I was fine. It was like, oh, I'm happy myself. And then all of a sudden this overlay was like, oh my God, I'm broken. I can't do anything. I can't leave and whatever. So the idea first is to realize that and to try to stabilize that, just to make sure that you're just you, no matter what is happening in the exterior world. But the next moment is you're going to do a little mind building, do affirmations. I'm not sure if you're familiar with affirmations.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, sure. Start with a few. I mean, again, every virtue can be made into an affirmation. So it's like, virtue is being positive, being happy. I am positive. I am happy. I am hopeful. I am, whatever. I'm healthy. I'm healed. I'm, just go down the list. It doesn't mean that you are that right now. Like, you might be broken, but you're like, I'm healed. I can stand up. I am standing. You know what I mean? You need to believe these things if you're going to be them. So do that. Get out of bed. If you want to drink water, you want to eat an apple is one of the best foods you can start your body with, because it's a little sugary, but it's also got fiber in it, and it will help, start your body. It's like, sugar is from an apple is a natural little stimulant. Do some yoga. Yoga, I know people diss it because it's Eastern. Just think of it as like strength and stretching. You're doing a little strength and stretching in the morning. You're doing a little meditation while you're doing that. One of the things I always teach that people miss when they're working out is your mindset. So when you're lifting weights or whatever you're doing, what is your mind thinking about? Like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this or doing that. No, focus. You sit there and think to yourself when you're doing your yoga, I'm flexible, I'm strong, have a great day. Then you do the 5 different types of meditation at the end of that. You can do them quickly or a little longer. I break them down in the book, and as well as on the website. You can download a sheet. But this idea of meditation, I just want you to think about it like this. One is, you're training your body. It's like training your mind. There are different ways to meditate. Most people only talk about the first ways, like being present. You have this first idea of, I'm here. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm present. Right? That's the first step in the meditation. Then there's other ones. This idea, that's the idea of mindfulness. And you want to keep that throughout all of these. But the second idea is control. So you want to be able to control your mind as well as to let it go. So the first idea is to control your mind. So you might think of your body filled with light, and then pushing out all the darkness. There's a lot of different ways that you can exercise your mind to control it. As far as that. And then the next way is like the Zen meditation, where you're open. You're just letting it all go. You're going to not, if thoughts are coming into your mind, you're not going to focus on them. And eventually what will happen here is your mind will stop. And this was one of the greatest experiences of my life. When I was young, I went to a Zen retreat, and it was just silent, like you couldn't talk, it was you walking meditation, sitting meditation, whatever. It was like 3 or 5 days or something like that. And remember, like the third day, because usually our minds run like TVs, right? Changing channels all the time. It's just on and on, go, 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 go. And what happened was it stopped. Like, it was literally like there was silence. And my mind wasn't just running all the time. That is, like, I would love to teach every kid that. They need that so badly. But that idea really does help. So if you center yourself there, then the other idea is the focus meditation, where you can go through the list of affirmations and virtues. I am happy, I'm positive, I'm hopeful, I'm disciplined, I'm dedicated. And then the final one is a visualization exercise where you see yourself, whatever it is you're doing your day, right, that you want to do. Like you see yourself exercising right. You see yourself communicating with your loved one in a way that everybody's happy, or eating well, or giving that presentation well, whatever it may be. Visualize your life. And then just sit with those, different ways to meditate. And then that's the way I start my morning every day. I do all of kind of that stuff. That makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
And that, just so you know, everybody's listening, if you wanted these sheets and things, it's on my website. There's a free gift tab. You click there and you can get downloads.
Is that at 7way.me or consulting?
Yeah, 7way.me. Consultingace.com is the business side of my life, and the foundation and the book are on the 7way me. And I chose 7way me because it was short, and I thought 7 steps. The book's name is The Way, so it's like your 7way me. So I want all of this goodness into my life. Give it to me.
That's perfect. I admire that because the web world's part of my universe. So that was a very wise choice of a domain.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I always get asked, why did you choose 7way me? I'm like, well, that's why. So that's cool.
So there's so much richness in what you're communicating. And I feel such gratitude at the level of generosity that's coming from you in all of this. And one of the things that we do here is we expand and try to deepen all of that as much as we can. And it's clearly we could go on for a lot longer, but we're at the place where we're going to start to wind it down here. And we have a question that we ask every one of our guests. So I would invite you to go ahead and take a deep breath before you answer. Okay. And there's no wrong answer. And it's a lighthearted question. We've dealt with a lot of serious.
Greg's laughing, so it's making me nervous though.
Yeah. All right. So here it is.
Only because I've heard so many variants of an answer. Like as Marc said, there is no wrong answer. It's beautiful. All right.
Okay.
So the question is, Eminem or Foo Fighters?
Oh gosh, I'd have to go Eminem.
All right. That is a surprise.
Really, yeah, I think.
Why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're both really good. I can't say that either one of them is something I listen to all the time. I'm into heavy metal. I know it sounds kind of odd, but I've always been into working out, and heavy metal is the workout music, I think. I don't know, at least for me.
So with Eminem as your answer and heavy metal as your preference, I'm surprised you didn't pick Foo Fighters.
Well, yeah, I know. And I think it really comes down to that one song. I think, and again, my mind sometimes, but Eminem is the one where he's on stage, right? And he's like,
yeah,
that song, I don't know, resonated with me so much because, and that's really like the Foo Fighters, you could say, I can't even remember one song. And again, I'm not a good name person. I have dyslexia and things like that.
Yeah.
But that song, when I first heard it, was, you know how you get tingles sometimes when you hear things and you're like, oh my God, that just resonated so much because going on stage and speaking and, you got one shot and all of that. It was just so like, oh my God, I just love that song. So that's why.
And M's a perfect example, I think, of an individual that had hella personal challenges as an individual and kept stepping to better himself. And whether you like him or hate him, he's true to who he is.
Yeah. And I think, again, everybody's got faults, whatever, but that song, he talks about like, food stamps don't pay for the diapers and, all the rest of the stuff he says in that song. That's what I'm talking about. The desperation, if you listen to heavy metal a lot of times and some rap too, they talk about deep issues, the problems of society. I can't remember which rapper it was, but they became like, they were on the street and they did all this stuff and their music was hardcore. And then later they're like, I just don't feel it anymore because my life has gotten so much better. I was so angry then and now I'm not. And to me, that settles in and I'm just like, this is the whole point, right? Yeah. If we could just create a little bit of a better world so people aren't so desperate and anxious and worried and everything else. And if you look at the poor, most of them work more than full time. So it's like, hey, I'm working at Walmart 60 hours a week or whatever, 5 jobs, 3 jobs, and I still can't feed my family. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the problem, right? It's not like these people aren't working. It's that the jobs that they're working at aren't paying them enough. And if you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation profits-wise and your people are on food stamps, you're on the dark side. right? You should be wanting to pay people more. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we made an extra 100 million profit this year. Tell you what, guys, you're going to get the same money. You're just going to work 4 days a week. We're going to hire some more people. Have a better life. Have a 3-day weekend with your kids. Why is that so horrible? Oh my God. The end of the world is coming because people get to enjoy their lives.
Well, Andrew, you've been a really wonderful guest, and I'm looking forward to having you again and connecting with you more online. And for everyone else, be sure to pick up a copy of The Way. It's in most stores worldwide. Also, check out Consulting Ace, Peace Ace, and 7-Way Me. That's the number 7, WAY.me. And you can find free gifts, and it's a hub for everything. All of these exciting things that he's been talking about, you can start your journey there. And you can learn more about The Way and The One, and find all the shows that Andrew's been on, the solution videos, and links to his social media there. So resources that can help you and all of us create so much more in our life.
Oh, it's well read, Marc. Well read.
Yeah. Thank you,
Hey,
guys.
if someone's going to give me stuff that's that good, I'm going to use it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did, because I really hope that I take the time to go check out what you're offering, Andrew.
Hope's cheap. Cling to it.
Let me just say this too. I just want everybody to know that I struggle. I have hard times. I take care of my mom, and all these things are happening in the world. So I need your help too. So we can help each other, all of us. With the foundation, the One, the Way. It's unifying all of this together that's going to make a better world. So your shows, other shows, we all start talking about these different messages. We join up together. That's the only way this is going to make any difference. So, join me and join with all of us together. This isn't about me. This is really about this whole idea. So if I could have done this anonymously, I would, but that's not the way the world works. So
we can do this.
Yeah, we can. I mean, again, if you look at how much wealth and knowledge and everything else we have, it's not even that hard right now. I mean, 1800s, 1500s, 1000 BC, right? Compared to now, my God, we could build anything we want. We've got more money and talent and knowledge than any time in human history. Resources, everything, right? It's literally like, can we just get together on what this is and implement it? The solutions and the good people are there. We just got to stop all this division and hate and all the dark side, right? We got to move to the light side.
Recording stopped.